Okay, without realizing it, you realize like if you started doing 10 times what you're doing now, that people around you probably wouldn't like it?
Yeah.
You realize that other people would come to you like this? Can I have some, please?
More of your time.
Would you realize that you probably actually have to lose friends and people? Do you see what I'm saying? So subconsciously, without even realizing it, that's what's underneath the stalling thing. So what I was doing, this one used to plague me all the time. So even though my wife is pregnant, I know it's coming, and yet I'm doing nothing. I'm stalling. Do you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So give me an example of something that you've stalled on. Just be honest. This only works if we're honest. Yeah.
Transaction coordinator.
Good. I love that. So stalling on hiring transaction. And what is the story that you rationalize and tell yourself to make that make sense?
I can keep control of it. I don't have to give it to somebody else. What if they make a mistake?
Got it. So what if they make a mistake? What's underneath that? I don't trust people. You notice the energy in the room right now?
Sorry, guys. Thank you.
And or I don't have a system that I trust. You know what's interesting? Memory is not a system. Let me ask you guys a question. How many very successful business people do you know that have 0 employees? Oh, that's right. The answer is none. Do you understand? But 65% of us grew up in families that live paycheck to paycheck. That was my experience. I'm seeing some heads nodding, right? So do you know, because of that, do you know what we heard all the time? Money doesn't grow on
trees.
Wow, you guys went to the same school, huh? Eat all the food on your
plate.
Oh, interesting. And a penny saved is a penny? Which is bullshit because it's just a penny. And here's the one that got you. You ready? And gets a lot of us. If you want something done right, you got to do it Guys, I need you to think about everybody who ever said that to you. What is their life like? It's not fantastic. Do you understand? That's an employee mentality. Do you get that? That's really what's behind this. You see? I can just do it myself. It's easy. But guess what? All of the time that you're spending, you know what you are? A high-paid assistant. You're trading $500 an hour work for $15 an hour work because underneath it, I don't trust people. Or I don't have a system that I trust. So if you want to grow, I don't care how much Tony Robbins, how much David Goggins, okay? I don't care how much YouTube you watch. Until he deals with that, will he grow? Sorry?
Nowhere.
Sorry?
No.
Does that make sense? That's just a fact. Okay? It's the way it is. So think of something right now, like the staller won't let you make big decisions. It just won't. I made a decision, guys. I sold back my interest in a company and lost $42,000, and I had to cap twice because I had 17 pendings. Do you know that this industry is set up that's basically contractual arbitrage? They know you don't read ICAs. You don't even know what that stands for, most of you guys. Independent contractor agreements, you don't even read them. They know that. And as such, what they do, they also know that 65% of you, okay, haven't, like, money's a thing. So they're like, what can we do to keep people from not going, like, leaving? Let me keep some of their money if they leave. And they don't even realize because they didn't even read it. Isn't this fantastic? But it stops you from making, if I had allowed the staller to stop me from making this decision, we wouldn't be at 325 agents. Does that make sense? So I want you to ask yourself a question. What big decision do you need to make right now that the staller's wreaking havoc on? We heard one. Who wants to give me one more? A big decision that the staller is not allowing you to move forward on. This is good. I feel like this is getting agents to like think is fantastic, right? We had to get a C on a test, have $1,000 and not be a felon. That was the requirements, guys. Yeah. Okay, good.
Applying a lead gen system, applying into a different gen system.
Good.
Moving to a different company for a better opportunity.
Yeah. So for you personally, which one? Okay. So in your mind. So here's what's interesting. He starts to like kind of verbally just vomit those things. And what I love about that, because it's honest, but do you know what that tells me? He's walking around with those thoughts in his head all the time. Mm-hmm. And the staller is like, don't do anything. Don't do anything. Don't do anything. And you impede what? Progress radically. You know, it's a shame that in school, the way that we are taught is it's bad to make a mistake. In school, to collaborate is called what? Cheating. If you're not collaborating as an adult, that's dumb. You understand? So the real way that you learn something is by trying it. And then you screw it up. And then you get better at it. If you go back, go watch my first YouTube. It was terrible. The power went out during my first podcast. Okay? The lighting's bad. It's terrible. The camera's bad. If you are not embarrassed by your first attempt, you waited too long. Just get out of the way. Not only that, nobody's paying attention to you. I promise. Like your mom's watching. Nobody cares. You think everybody's gonna be like, oh my God. I'm sorry, what's your name again? Wilkins. Oh my God, you see what Wilkins posted? No. Like your auntie says that. Nobody else says it. Nobody else is even paying attention. We take ourselves way too seriously, guys. Like, nobody cares. You know what they're thinking about all the time? Themselves. That's what they're thinking about all the time. You ever hand somebody a camera and you show them a picture, what's the first thing they look at? Where the fuck am I? Whoop! Where am I? They just ignore everybody else. That's the truth, okay? So this is the staller. The second assassin that gets in the way is called the speed demon. The speed demon makes you believe that you progress by making decisions as quickly as possible. You hire the first person that's standing next to you. Your aunt, your uncle, whoever. Oh, I need somebody. I'm in pain. This is stressful. You're a body that is breathing. Come work with me. Really fast, right? And then they forcefully, like they try to pick technology and make it work because they picked it really fast. They didn't do any homework. They picked a CRM and they're like, rah, this is going to be great. I always love it when you just get overexcited about CRMs. I'm like, you realize it's not going to help you do any more business, right? You have to actually talk to people. Never taking the time to reflect on the mistakes that they're making. And then they say things like, you know, there's no good help. You can't find good people. You know what they're really saying? I have no system for finding good people. I just whoever's standing next to me at the time. And I never reflect. Pain plus reflection equals progress. You know what the problem is? We never take the time to reflect. Anybody besides me ever made a decision too fast and it didn't work out? Everybody's hand should be up. Why did you make that decision that quickly? Do you have a group of people that I would call believable, meaning that they've produced the outcome that you wish to produce consistently over an extended period of time? And if you do, did you run it by them first? He's like, that's a novel idea. That would help me, wouldn't it? Right? But we don't do that. And we try to rush through things. So what emotion keeps us like stuck with the speed demon? Quickly making decisions.
Pain alleviation.
In what way? Explain what you mean.
So this is the pain point. This might solve it. I'm just gonna run with it.
Yeah. So go ahead.
Put a Band-Aid on it.
Yeah, a Band-Aid. What emotions underneath that?
Anxiety.
Yeah. Around what?
Failure.
Do you notice a common theme here?
Yeah.
We're just afraid to make mistakes. Do you think it has anything to do with sitting in class all the time? And if you made one mistake, they were like, 100% it does. Have you ever watched a little kid, like a 1-year-old? Are they afraid of making mistakes? You know why? Because it hasn't been trained into them. By the way, do they care if you cry right at them? Do they try to hide the tears? They're like, oh my God, don't look at me. No, they're like, look at me. I am crying right now. You need to do something to get me to stop. Us, we're like, oh my God, I can't believe it. You can't see me cry. Oh my. So it's fear, it's anxiety, right? Speed demon ensures that you keep making mistakes. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. And if anybody wants to volunteer, it's cool. Is there a mistake that you keep making repeatedly? What is it? Okay, so you keep making that mistake. And what is the story that you're telling yourself around follow-up?
I need new business, go find someone else. They're not ready yet.
Got it. So underneath it is a fear that there's not enough. Did you come from an environment where there's not enough? Are you afraid of that in any way? Are you afraid of like resources and needing to gather them and hoard them up? Yeah. So we all are to some degree. So what I'm aware of is that fear of there not being enough and having to gather up the resources is causing me to ignore the follow-up. Meanwhile, 70% of all the appointments will come in what? Follow-up. But because I'm so like, I'm ignoring it. Does that make sense? But and then what happens is you see, if we don't know this, you know what happens? You're like, there's something wrong with me. I'm like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just not seeing it properly. Okay, how do you think we see things? It's not a trick question, by the way.
With your eyes.
Look, he's giving me that perception. What would you say?
Your eyes.
Yeah, your eyes. Yeah, that's what most people would say. Right? I know you're sophisticated, bro. He's like, well, you have this ocular nerve, and like that's the way you fucking. So your eyes, right? But what if I told you that's not how you see things? Yeah, he's like, come on, man, why you gotta laugh at me like that, right? Hey, trust me, he gets it all the time.
I know it's everyone with a problem.
He gets it all the time. So. Anyway, so what if I told you that's not the way you see things? It's actually your mind that sees things. So if my mind is blind to the possibility, my eyes will be blind to the opportunity. There'll literally be something right in front of me, you just won't see it. So the reason why that keeps happening, and you think you're like, I need more accountability.
Yeah.
He's like, how'd you know that, bro? Like, yeah, dude, I need more accountability. That's not what it is, bro. It's a fear of there not being enough. That's why you keep chasing and ignoring here. Until you deal with that, that's going to keep being an issue. It's never going to go away. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. But now that you're aware of it, now you can see it for what it is, right? And then you can make decisions in accordance with what's true. So the next one is the supervisor. The supervisor won't allow you to delegate things. You'll hire a TC, but then you'll end up doing the TC's work for them. He's like, don't look at me, bro. Right? You have a full-time assistant, but you take tasks away from them versus letting them do their job. Mm-hmm. Can you see how this would impede progress? Because, by the way, what do we get paid to do in this business? I know there's other businesses, but in this business, the value chain, what do we actually get paid to do? Yeah. Prospect, which leads to?
Appointments.
Yeah. Lead follow-up, which leads to? Going on appointments, which leads to? Negotiating deals, which leads to? Guys, I need you to be very clear. That is the only thing you get paid to do. Anything else that you're convincing yourself you get paid to do is not accurate. It's assistant work. Ta-da, you notice the energy in the room? They're like, damn it. I like going to, be with the videographer when he takes the pictures. I'm like, why are you a professional photographer? What exactly are you doing there? I go to the home inspections. Why? Are you a home inspector? What are you doing there? Yeah, I know. I was on a coaching call today and I was doing a role playing. He's like, that was good. I'm like, I know. Yeah. So what emotion gets in the way here? You hire somebody, but you don't let them do the job. You take it away from them. Huh? Yeah, trust. And fear that they're going to make a mistake and it'll make me look bad. Now, I'm wondering, how long could somebody stay with the supervisor wreaking havoc on them? A whole lifetime, bro. Look at any agent in your office that does 20 deals a year. They mother them. They do everything. They're like, my clients love me. I'm like, great, good for you. But you know what I became aware of? If I do 200 deals in a calendar year, is it possible to have everybody love me? No. At least 20 of them are not going to be pleased. And is that my intention? No. Have you ever had people like me that no matter what you do, they're never happy? You bend over backwards, you cut their lawn, you give up some of your commission, you're like, damn it, it should have been more. You ever? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? So it's getting over, like I was giving a talk and there was a lady in the room and she was like very displeased with what I was saying. I could tell body language, she's like, everything I'm saying, right? I said, okay, I like had enough of that. I'm like, oh, can you stand up, please? She's like, sure. I'm like, what's your name? She's like, Susie. I'm like, great. I'm going to ask you some questions. My intention in asking is not to be a jerk, okay? I think it'd just be helpful for the people in the room. Other people would benefit from it, including you. How many deals do you do? It was like 30. Good for you. In any office in the country, you're in the top. The office that I left had 130 agents. 9 made more than $100,000 a year. Listen to what I just said to you. No matter how much Instagram and your little pictures of your home sold, 9 made more than $100,000 a year. That means everybody else is starving to death. You understand that? And the spread was ridiculous. 6 made like right at 100. 1 made like 300, 600. Then your boy. Huge spread, right? So I told her, I'm like, if you're doing 30 deals in any office, you're like the top agent or one of them. And they're putting you on panels and asking you to teach classes. Okay, good. I said, I'm imagining, because she was like, oh, you don't go to closings? I'm like, nope. She gave a transaction coordinator and they talk to him for the majority of the time once it goes pending. I'm like, yep. She's like, you don't go to like home inspections? Nope. You don't go to walkthroughs? Nope. And everything I was saying was bothering her. So I'm like, it's clear to me based on what you're saying, like we have a different philosophy. Now I'm also imagining based on what you're saying to me, the majority of your deals are past client centers of influence. She's like, yes, kind of like, how did you know that? I'm also imagining that you do everything. You mother them. You hover over them. She was like, yes, look in the back. Yep. And I said, I need you to understand something. The difference between me and you is that I know that if Jesus showed up here right now, somebody wouldn't like his hair. Somebody wouldn't like his beard. Somebody definitely wouldn't like the color of his skin. It is, as your audience expands, it's impossible to make everybody happy. The intention isn't to make them unhappy, but it's impossible to do that. I'm okay with doing 200 deals and having 20 people not like me at the end of the year. You're not. And until you become okay with that, you'll be stuck at 30 deals for the rest of your life. You can sit down now. Is anything that I just said not true? It's a fact. This gets in the way, the supervisor. Hovering. Have a TC, but are in the emails, watching what's going on and answering them. Jumping in when you're not even needed. Do you know why part of the reason why we do that? Because we make so much money, we're trying to justify how much money we make. We create drama. Oh my God, you won't believe it, almost fell apart. You won't believe it. Oh, I saved it. I saved it. You have nothing to worry about. We're just trying to justify how much money we make. That's lame, dude. This is about making money. It's bottom line, it's profit. So those aren't our people.
Right.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
It's fine.
I'm not here to be a people pleaser. Like that's not why I'm doing this, right? Like that's not why I have taken the opportunity to step in front of the camera and speak about what I know. That's not why, right? Like when you talk about serving, you do it without the expectation of what the return is. I really want to see you win, right? Like I'm willing to spend hours of my week with you because I really want to see where this goes and how far you can take it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, right? Like, I don't believe that the ego boost that you get from someone knowing you is more valuable than what you offer in that moment. And here's what I mean by that. I have found myself, after realizing that people are recognizing me for what I've done and been able to do with Ryan, people are recognizing me, but I need to be ready to give them something to take away.
Yeah.
Right? The hi, it's me. Hi. Like that's not giving anymore.
It's not even, that's not an exchange of value.
And so now my focus now is on, okay, when that individual asks me something, will I have a real answer for them? Something tactical that they can apply right away. Right? And I'm constantly thinking that, okay, I can see people sometimes standing off to the side. It's me and Ryan standing there. We were at an event last week and they're standing, and I know they're trying to get to Ryan.
Yeah.
Right? And you almost want to say, just come on.
Just come on.
Like, just come on, let's get it done. Right? But you wait for them to take their opportunity. Sometimes they take it, sometimes they don't. All right? And I'm like, oh, you missed out because that was the moment for you, right? You're probably never going to get him by himself and steal again.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's like, take the moment. And then the videographer comes up to me. He's like, oh, I recognize you from da-da-da. I'm like, yeah, cool. And as I'm talking, I'm like, he's not coming because of just my nice video, right? Like he sees value. And so what value can I give in order, like, for him to walk away with feeling like, they're the real, like he's real. Like he's not just one of these guys up here talking and being an imposter. He's actually trying to help people.
It's true for me as I hear you say that. That means like you are, you're equipped to be a leader because you're thinking to yourself instead of the value of this is the boost of ego. It's not like, if you recognize me, that's cool, but I want to be able to exchange value with you. Like I believe, I was telling my wife this the other day, you know, before I go on stage or before I do a talk, it's more like, hey, listen, like, thank you for this opportunity. Thank you for this platform. Thank you for the ability to be able to share something that could be positive or helpful in some way. So give me the strength, give me the emotional intelligence, give me the intellectual intelligence, give me the recall, give me the sense of humor, give me the enthusiasm to be able to pour out so I can help somebody in a positive way. And reminding myself, it's not me, it comes through me.
Right.
And this isn't for me, it is for you, right? And it's for them. And like, amen. And then you go do your thing. And I think if you do that, it creates like a shield, a protective shield, where it's so easy for that to go straight to your head. And, you know, start to make it about you.
What you're saying isn't coming from you, right? Like you're doing everything to exercise the muscle, but it's a calling. So you know, you have to be aware of that and know that. And I'm aware, man. Like I'm telling you, like I don't take anything that I've experienced in the last 6 months, 7 months for granted. Because I understand that this is the beginning. And I know where things can go. But enough about me. Let's talk about Aaron. You said you did a 13K year. And then 100 plus transactions.
5 years later.
5 years later. Tell me what contributed to that type of growth in that short amount of time.
So one was, I read in retrospect, I didn't know this at the time, but there was a book by Ray Dalio called Principles. And in that book, he says you need an accurate assessment of reality in order to produce a good outcome. Now, when he said that at the time, I'm like, hey, that's cute. Like, that's kind of clever. You know what I mean? But the more I marinated on that, the more I was like, wow, that's really true. Not the way I think it is or the way social tells me it is, but the way it actually is. And he also had this formula that a dream plus dealing with reality plus determination equals a successful life.
That's good.
What's interesting about that is if you ask yourself a question, which part of that formula is actually the most challenging? It's like, well, is it a dream? No, everybody's got a dream.
Everybody's got a dream.
Is it determination? People have various degrees of determination. It's the dealing with reality piece. That's the hardest because then I have to admit to myself, I'm not as fast as I thought I was, as quick as I thought I was, as smart I thought as I was, as cool as I thought as I was.
Yeah.
And that for some people is so uncomfortable that they shut down, right? So the accurate assessment reality that I then acquired was, hey, the money's not in the service. The money's in the selling of the service. So like, that doesn't mean we don't give people good service.
Right.
That's expected. Like in real estate, they expect you to know how to read a contract. They expect you to know what you're talking about. They expect you to know how to negotiate. What I tell people all the time is like, do you jump up and down when you walk into Whole Foods and they have groceries? Like, no, that's the expectation.
Right,
They're
right.
going to have groceries there.
Yeah.
You're not like, oh my God, guys, this is dope. You got groceries today. Where the money's at, though, is learning how to sell the service. See, I spent that full year stacking my time on things that weren't actually the thing. I didn't know what the thing was. So once I got that accurate assessment, I was like, oh, that's what's true. So then I got obsessed with learning how to sell the service. So I role played twice a day, 6 days a week for 3 years. I would handwrite out scripts by hand.
Wow.
Right? Because in real estate, the conversation, well, the people change, the situations change, the houses change. The conversation never changes. It's always the same. Like, you know, my friend's an agent. Will you cut your commission? Never heard of your company. Like it's over and over again.
Yeah.
And in the real estate business, there's only opportunities. There's no security. And I'm very motivated by security, right? Particularly coming from a family where they didn't have a lot of resources. So what I realized is like, if I get my skills to such a degree that if there is an opportunity, there's an 85% chance I'll be able to take advantage of that opportunity. I've just created security for myself and my family. So I got maniacal around practice. I would record myself doing presentations. I would record role playing, right? And I sought out role play partners that were doing like 200 transactions and I'm doing like a little.
Yeah.
Right? And pestered them and, you know, bothered them to get into their schedules.
Yeah.
So that was the first accurate assessment of reality. The second accurate assessment of reality is that you can only grow to the proportion that your systems will allow you to. So I don't care how much motivation you do. I don't care how much rah-rah you go to. I don't care how much you go to these like, you know, all these speakers that'll even be at WealthCon and they're like motivating. Bro, if you don't have systems in place, you will plateau.
Yeah.
You will not grow. So with that recognition, we started to build a team around being able to process deals. Because most agents, what happens is they might get good at the soft skill, but they get capped out at like 3 to 4 transactions a month because they're doing everything behind the scenes.
Gotcha.
So we created systems really with the help of my wife because she's the operations manager. She's a specialist on the profile, so she's perfect for that. Analytical by nature.
Yeah.
And that allowed me to just throw stuff over my shoulder. So we became a conveyor belt for listings where I could take 10, 15 listings personally per month, throw them over my shoulder, and keep it moving.
Going. Wow.
Yeah. So those 2 accurate assessments are really what allowed us to get to that place.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's incredible. That every time I hear a success story about how they scaled or how they improved their business, it always starts with developing a system.
Yeah.
And every time I hear about that, there's usually a woman behind it.
Yeah. You know what's fascinating about that? I don't know if you know this, but Mr. Wonderful, he said he only invests on Shark Tank with women.
Really?
Yeah. Do you know why he said why?
Why?
1 is they're better allocators of resources.
Okay.
And 2, they have smaller egos.
Yeah. Well,
I was like, wow, dude, that's pretty insightful. Because like, yeah, that's spot on.
Yeah.
And what's true about that, Justin, I find that so fascinating that you notice that all of my team is women.
yeah. I'm seeing it over and over again. I mean, I'm seeing it in our own system, right? Like in our own company, where a lot of the men that you see, there might be some faces that you might recognize, and they may be up speaking, and they may be doing, and you know, but a lot of the really gritty work that needs to get done, that's like time consuming, but also it has to be time efficient.
Yeah.
They're there. The women are there, and they're just really good at it. I always tell my wife, like, you know, you're smarter than me in every way. Like, I don't have an argument for what you're saying.
No, and
right?
I think that they have the capacity. I think by nature, men are very singularly focused, and women have the capacity to have their attention or awareness in multiple places at one time.
Yep.
So they could be like, you know, talking to the kids, cooking something,
Yep.
like watching what's on TV, talking to you, like all at the same time. Where we're like, nah, dude, I need like one thing.
No, 1,000%, 1,000%. So yeah, I mean, how important has, you know, creating the content been to the growth of the business?
Yeah, so I heard something recently that was very true for me. was that if you are not good at marketing, you have to become a world-class salesperson. So that's what I did, because I had a kind of like a mentor in my life that had a lot of influence over thinking, and he was saying that that's stupid and dumb and you shouldn't do it. That you should just focus on beating the bushes, you know, pounding, dialing, smile dial, make a pile, that sort of thing. And I didn't focus on brand building. And it wasn't until recently, like as I made this transition, I used to own part of a KW office. I sold it back in order to participate with EXP.
Okay.
And I recognized about a year ago, right before we got involved, patterns. So patterns, like Tony Robbins says, like if you want to create outcomes that are favorable, it's based on the quality of your choices.
Right.
We naturally think we're great at making decisions.
Yeah.
But if you look at people's outcomes, they're not. And part of decision making is pattern recognition. So it's recognizing patterns, but then using the patterns.
Yep.
So one of the patterns that I was watching, I'm watching all of these individuals use media because I don't believe it's social anymore. They say that, but they're all doing it wrong because they're all taking pictures of themselves cooking or eating or on vacation. And what they don't realize is that the saturation of content on platforms is at like an all-time high. So more content will be put on Instagram today than in human history.
Right.
And tomorrow will be the same. Right. So when that happens, then from a supply and demand perspective, what becomes more valuable and more sought after is quality of what's being said, not pictures of your food at your mom's house eating dinner, and also production quality. So I'm watching these patterns, and I'm watching the Paul brothers use attention to create Prime and become a billionaire. It's like, wait a minute. I'm watching the Kardashians use attention to create Skims and become billionaires. So if you ask a question like, what's more difficult, creating a product or distributing it?
Right.
It's distribution.
Yeah.
So when I noticed this pattern, I said to my team, because if we want to, I told Carlo, like what we're really doing is like a ministry. The more people that we can bring into it, the more we can love on them and help them.
Yep.
And the vision is to grow to thousands of agents. Like we've grown to 194 in 16 months.
Wow.
But the vision is to grow to thousands. And I said to Carlo, I'm like, I don't really understand this. I see the pattern, I see the tsunami, the wave,
right.
but I don't really know. I don't know what the platforms are for.
Yeah.
I don't know how to use them. And before this, it was pictures of my wife posting pictures of our kids. Like I really didn't know. So then I asked Jose, who's my business partner, and he's in the Collective Genius.
Okay.
And I said to Jose, hey bro, who does social media the best? Who makes the most money? And he was like, yeah, there's a couple guys that have courses. Nobody makes more money than Ryan.
Yeah.
Like nobody, period, end of story, hands down. So that was like, okay, that's who I need to get proximity to.
Yeah.
And that's what made me reach out to you guys and then learn. We also brought like a media team, the ones who do the editing and posting for us, where they could be on calls with us. So we're just like, if our bodies are the hardware, our brains are the software. So we're just sucking out the software.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
like show us how to do this.
Yeah.
And very quickly, what's been happening now is that with attention, money and power follow attention, and then attention follows money and power.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a virtuous loop. Like Grant Cardone is the one who said that, and it's totally accurate. So now what I see is this is a land grab, because the barrier to entry now, like we're here at your guys' facility, and this is dope.
Yeah.
I asked you I'm like, yo, how much did the room cost to set up? You're like $100,000. How much does this cost, right? So the barrier to entry for like small business owners now, I think is $2,000 to $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
Like editing, posting, if you're serious.
Yeah.
Because if you don't want to post stuff that just like your family members watch, you
Right.
need help.
Yeah.
So that's the barrier. I believe in the next 3 to 5 years, it'll be $10,000 a month because that supply and demand, it'll just keep getting higher. Better quality production, right?
Yeah. And if you're trying to compete with us,
Right.
you're gonna spend $50K a month.
You know what's funny is I did an event for our a local event. We do socials.
Yep.
And there's a guy who owns a title company, and he was talking to me about like media, and he sees what I'm doing or whatever. And I was like, bro, you post like once a day. You can't keep up with me, dude. I'm like 3 or 4 times a day on all channels.
it just
like
won't-
it's not even close. Any questions, comments, concerns, observations, hallucinations, anything we can help you guys with?
Yeah, I have a question. So when you're going to your close, right? You do the calendar close.
Uh-huh.
So we got the price, we got the time. Do you go any other questions and then assume that you can write in the rate that you want? Or are you now dividing it up and saying, here's my fee, and then what are we going to offer?
So I usually bring up the fee whenever it either came up in the pre-qualification or I believe that it's going to be an issue. If they don't ask me about the fee, I just assume a 6% basically. If they don't ask about it, I just basically assume that they don't have a problem with it. And then I start explaining the contract to them, and then professional fees probably on the 5th or 6th page in there. Right. By the time they get there, they've already signed 6 documents. They're like, this is the price that we agreed upon. This is the start date. This is the term of the contract. That's the standard 6% fee. Just need an initial right there.
And as it relates to NAR and the settlement, how are you going to change
So I just noticed yesterday on the listing agreement, they added a new form. I think it's called the broker compensation agreement. So that form actually explains that very well. So what I noticed is the listing agreement, page 1 is the same exact page. It's just one additional page that gets added on there that basically says commissions are 100% negotiable. Buyer broker commissions are typically paid by the broker agreement that they have. If you decide to offer something, blah, 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 blah. Right. So if you print out, like if you go on just a new listing agreement and just print it out, read that form, and that form discloses everything as it relates to the NAR settlement agreement.
Yeah, and then I think if they ask you a question about that, then you can say something like, well, sure, like what have you been hearing? So you kind of get the temperature. And then based on that, you can decide where you want to go with it in terms of how you're going to explain it.
Yeah. So it doesn't mean that sellers can't offer commission. It just means that they can't advertise what they're offering on the MLS. That's all it means. Right. So it doesn't mean that you can't offer it. Like, and to be quite honest, they've never had to offer anything. You could offer, like I've had listings that the seller only wants to pay $10,000 flat fee.
Yeah.
And we advertise it as a $10,000 flat fee on the MLS.
I had a seller who said, I heard you don't have to pay anything. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong.
What I would say to that, look, if they do that, I would just be playful. I'd be like, yeah, that'd be fantastic, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I'd love to not be able to pay if I didn't have to.
Right.
You know, so what I'd like to do is just kind of go over with you the only 2 rule changes that actually apply to you in any way. And then we can discuss what you want to do as far as compensation is concerned, because whatever you decide, I'll support you 100%. Fair enough? Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah. It's like, all right, well, the 2 changes that actually apply to you are the following. One is we're not able to put compensation in the multiple listing service. We used to be able to do that. We're not able to do that. We can still offer compensation. We just can't put it there. Number 2 is we can offer concession because that's allowed, right? So you mentioned, you know, I don't want to pay anything. That's perfectly fine if you decide to do that. Before you make that decision, let's discuss how we compensate agents and how that would affect ultimately how much you can get and how it's actually a tool that we use to market the property. Would that be okay? Sure. Yeah. So let's imagine that we go into a neighborhood or a geographic area where you're shopping for a home and there's 10 homes for sale. 7 are offering to pay your buyer's agent, either in the form of a concession or in the form of a percentage of agreed upon purchase and sales price. 3 of them are not offering to compensate your agent. As a buyer, which properties would you instruct your agent to show you first? Ones that were going to compensate your agent or ones that weren't?
I mean, I know the answer that you're leading me to, but I would say the one that I want to see, right?
Yeah, which I appreciate. At the same time, if the one that you wanted to see caused you to have to pay your buyer's agent, is that cool with you?
That would mean I would have less of a down, right?
Yeah.
But
you see what I'm saying? So
or you can say, look, if that property that you wanted to go see wasn't offering any sort of concession and you knew that now that concession was coming from your pocket, would you factor that into the purchase price?
Right. Like nothing works all the time.
Yeah.
So like what I just gave to you will work like 90% of the time.
Right.
You'll get the 10%. It's like, wow, you don't want to get all analytical about it. Right. So there's in Washington, I think it is, they've already passed the rules and applied them. And we have a guy in our group coaching call. He's like, yeah, they did it like 5 months ago. I'm like, did it change anything? He was like, no. So the way I describe this to people is like, you know where you want to go somewhere and you put it in like your phone, like Google Maps or like iMaps? It gives you 2 choices. 1 is a paid route, a toll. 2 is a free one. 1 will save you 5 minutes. But you both end up where? In the same place. So what this conversation is we're going to end up in the same place. We're just going to have to take a little detour for 5 minutes and have a conversation about it. But we're going to end up right back at the same place.
At the Venture MLS a couple weeks ago, they had an agent there, and she said that they had the market after 3 weeks with 0 commission offer.
Yeah.
They got 0 showing.
Yeah.
So she told her seller, then they started offering nicer. Now we understand.
Yeah. And to
That's happened.
your point,
You can even use that as an example. Like,
Yeah.
hey, look, we had
Yep.
a couple of agents already offer out 0 compensation. And we noticed that after a period of 2 to 3 weeks of not getting any showings, they modified the compensation to actually offer something.
And then I think it also will become part of the price adjustment conversation. So like, yeah, if you recall, we had a conversation about compensation and how it was a marketing tool, and you had a couple choices, and you elected that we didn't want to offer out compensation. And what that is equated to is we actually haven't had any showings in 3 weeks. Do you think those two things are related in some way? What's interesting is I did some homework, and 5 properties that are in your price point went under contract. Do you know what they all had in common? They were all offering out compensation. So we have a choice to make, and the choice is yours. Whatever you decide is fine. One is we can keep doing what we're doing and get the same result, which is no showings and no offers. Or 2 is we can make an adjustment and offer either a concession or a percentage of an agreed upon purchase and sales price, which will increase the chances that we'll get some showings and therefore an offer on the table. Based on what you're looking to accomplish and why, based on the time frame you'd like to make this happen in, what do you think we should do? People who are like intelligent, have motivation, will be like, yeah, that's what I want to do. People who aren't motivated will fight you. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say maybe like 20% might say this. So Aaron, what are they paying you for?
Yeah. So if somebody says that, it's like, well, I appreciate you asking. And, what I'm aware of is the professional fee is one of the tools that we actually use to market the property, right? Because agents don't control people buy, but they do have influence over what they see. So let's imagine for a moment that there were 10 other properties available for sale. 7 of them are offering to compensate the buyer's agent, and 3 of them are offering not to compensate them at all. If you were a buyer, not a seller, because I know those hats are different. And if you put on your buyer hat for a moment, which properties do you think you would instruct your agent to show you first? Ones that were going to compensate your agent, or ones that weren't?
Ones that work.
Don't you think most buyers feel very similar to you? Yeah. Just by you saying that demonstrates that you recognize that the professional fee is in fact a tool that we use to market the home. It's a fact, right? So, but the key there is delivery. So what I see most people do is they pontificate and want to explain. Right. That's wrong. Instead, you notice how I ask questions? Yeah. Which ones would you instruct your... Because what I used to say before this rule change happened, if you were an agent, now we switch it to if you were a buyer and you were going to buy this home all over again, 7 of the homes are offering to compensate your agent, 3 aren't. Which one would you instruct your agent to show you first? That's easier for them to get into that frame. Now, when you said to me those other ones, I could have kept going. You know what I said instead? Why is that? Because I don't have to get in my pocket. I want you to say it. Right. You'll never argue with your own information. So instead of trying to tell people what they should be doing, asking questions to help them to self-discover what they should be doing. Because I know what the right thing is to do.
I was just gonna acknowledge. So I've known Aaron for a long time, and he has a way of structuring sentences that's like, it's just like beautiful. Like everything he just said sounded super sexy. Like I was like, yeah.
And then we try to say it, and it's like,
it doesn't come out the same when you try to sometimes say it, right? Like there was beautiful scripting of the way that he structures and puts words together, right? One of the things that I learned, and I'm just sharing my experience with it, is that when I would try to model it, I would trip myself up by trying to use his words. However, where I would find success is when I took his structure. So when I could break it down into the framework of what you're saying, it made everything simple. So if I break it down to 2 or 3 different steps where you, let's say, for example, like the first thing that you did when you were talking about that script is you said, you agreed with them. You're like, yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, we can definitely do that. Walls down. Yeah. Right. So now
don't make them wrong.
Yeah. You just put their defense down. Now it's time to go in for, let me introduce something else to you. Let me introduce just a different idea for you for a second here. Follow me along for a second. And then you put them in a malleable state where now you can insert your thoughts directly in their head and say,
by asking
with a close.
Questions, they think it's theirs.
It's their thoughts, exactly. So when you break it down to the structure, now the delivery becomes a lot simpler. So when he's answering a question or an objection, he's not thinking about what words he's going to say. He's more following just a pattern that he knows to fall back on that always works, right? Defense down, introduce topic, ask good questions, and then slide in his thoughts and then go in for a close. So all of that is in the structure. So the reason I share that is because when I look around the room, I feel like I think back to like when I would hear you say these things and we would be on our calls together.
We try to,
and then Jose, I remember this clearly. Jose would literally write down word for word every single thing that you said and would play it back in his car and recite it to try to get it down perfectly. And it was funny because he would short circuit when someone would say something slightly different and he's like, And I remember that call that we were on a group call and you said, you remember?
you got a brain, use it.
Oh, yeah. I
we
said,
got one
Jose, you have a beautiful brain. He's like, uh-huh. I'm like, use it. I remember when you called me, I don't know, maybe like 8 months later, and you were like, I got it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I understand the process now. But once he understands the process, you could apply it to anything. I could sell pens. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, once you understand procedurally what's happening. And something that could like let defenses down. So like whenever there's tension like that, like the way you presented with that initial character, like, oh, you know, prove it to me, prove it to me. I'm going to try to diffuse that in some way.
Right.
With humor. I'm going to mess around a little bit.
Yeah.
You know? Like I remember when I would say like, they would ask me like, well, what do you actually think it's worth, Aaron? I'm like, do I have permission to be candid, straightforward? They're like, yeah. I'm like, you're not going to get angry and throw me out of the house? And they're like, maybe. He's like, ha, there's tension.
Right.
I do that to break the tension purposely.
Yeah.
So yeah, either agree, like acknowledge or break tension. What's the next step?
Question, close.
Yeah. Question, to self-discover. And it's really them telling me, even though I know, because they'll never argue with their own information. Then once they have self-discovered, now I'm going to give them two options. That's called the lesser of two evils. One's shitty, one's a little better. We can keep doing what we're doing now and have to revisit this conversation in 3 weeks or a month. Or we can make an adjustment and get you one step closer to Texas. What do most people do? Here's what I think we should do. And whenever you do that, how many people here are married? Yeah, how does that work? Here's exactly what I think we should do. How does that work? No, it doesn't. So you're inviting friction. Instead of me saying to you like, hey, what do you think we should do? And they're like, well, and if you do this right, what are they going to say to you?
Well, what do you think?
What do you think, Aaron? See, the problem is like you give your own opinion before you're asked. How many opinions do you listen to before you're asked? Like if you don't ask somebody for their opinion, they give it to you, how does it make you feel?
This person doesn't understand
Yeah,
me. This
like I
person
just shut
doesn't
down. I'm
know
not even
me.
paying attention.
No,
But
yeah,
if
it puts the wall up.
put the wall up immediately. How many people have got unsolicited parenting advice from other parents? Yeah. You're like, why the fuck are you telling me this? Like, I don't understand why you're doing this. Right? But if you ask somebody for advice or you ask somebody for their opinion, how closely are you paying attention now? Fully.
I'm also a believer in chanting a lot. I know I was pretty soft on chanting for a long, like telling people to chant for a long time, but I'm a big time believer in that because that's where that worked for me, where I would literally like take his words and then chant them or practice the delivery of it. And then when I was involved in a role play situation or in a real life situation, it actually, the words would start to come out. 100%.
You also practice when people say stuff to you, you're like, wow.
Well, it's all the, like, imagine.
It's like, you know, somebody's like, man, will you do it for 5%? He's like, that's rehearsed.
The eye flicker and the look
It's
out.
not,
Stick out.
that's not his natural thing. Like, I'm telling you, he sits in a room and he's like, I don't know, man.
And they have no idea.
They have no idea.
They have no idea that it's.
But it's just conditioning. So really what's percolating to the surface, it's kind of both. I need to know what to say. There's freedom. Doesn't have to be actually verbatim. When people say to me, you know, verbatim, I'm like, you're dumb. Okay. It's stupid. So it doesn't have to be actually verbatim, but there is truth that I have to know
and practice it.
I have to practice language. And then there's also real truth that if I practice all the language and do it verbatim and I don't understand the process, I will not get the outcome I want. And then you'll start to think something's wrong with you. But it's not. You're just not
understanding.
You're not understanding the process. Right?
But for you to go into a situation like hear Aaron one time, this is what happens. They'll hear that script one time. Like, all right, I'm going to go try it in person. And then they go out, they try it, and then it doesn't work. And like, oh, this doesn't work. But the reality is that they never took the time to practice it in any way, shape, or form. You know, they never took the time. Like, I guarantee you, if I ask, and I've done this with different people, if I ask somebody like, how much commission do you charge? And I just go around the room and ask random people, how much commission do you charge? I will hear a variety of different things.
Yes.
It's okay, But if
Hey, I can see everybody right now. They're like,
please don't ask me. Please don't ask me. But the reality is that if I ask you to repeat it like very similarly, it doesn't have to be exactly the same. What percolates to the surface is that a lot of times we're winging it.
Media is actually more valuable than money. Why would that be the case? It works 25 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not geographically constrained. It can work anywhere on the planet where there's an internet connection. Do you know I have somebody on a coaching call, a group coaching call from Dubai? Do you realize 200 years ago that would never fucking happen? You used to be limited geographically to where you were born and the village you lived in. Now I can use the internet to scour the billions of people on the planet to find the 100,000 that like your boy. You understand? It's permissionless leverage. Did you used to need permission to get on the radio? Yeah, and a lot of money. Do I need any permission to post a podcast? Nope. Did you need permission to get on TV? Back in the day, yes, and it costs a lot of money or you had to be really talented. Do I need permission to post on social? No. Does it make sense as to why I'm posting 5 times a day on YouTube and 3 to 4 times a day on all platforms? Why? Because it's actually currency. Attention is currency. It's more valuable than money. Okay? And then the highest form of leverage is code. It's software. Why would that be superior to media? No geographic boundaries, just like media. It costs no money to duplicate or replicate once you create it once. Okay? Let's think about the richest people on the planet. Oracle, Ellison, code. Zuckerberg, Facebook, code. Bezos, Amazon, code. Are you noticing a pattern? Okay. Elon Musk, code. Tesla's actually a data company and a software company. Okay. And PayPal before that was software. You have to understand these different forms of leverages because if I turn myself into like this hustle culture, I will outwork you. Rah. Where is that on this? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? If that's the only thing that's operating in my brain, you don't understand leverage and it's a 2x opportunity. You'll be stuck there. Okay? So, the next thing I need to know and understand is this thing called the opportunity ladder. So let's say you do laundry for a living. Like you're the Heisman Trophy winner of doing laundry. How much leverage do you have? None, because you got to be there to do laundry, right? Now let's say you manage a laundromat. How much leverage do you have? A little bit, not much, right? You got a few employees. Now let's say you own the laundromat. You have leverage, but you only have one form, labor. You're also limited geographically with who you can serve, because who can you serve if you own the laundromat? 15, 20 mile radius, right? That's it. So it's a limited opportunity. Let's call it $1 million opportunity, okay? Now let's say you franchise the laundromat. Who can you serve now? Anyone in the country. But you added a form of leverage, which was what? Capital, because you can use other people's money to build out other laundromats. Does that make sense? You took $1 million opportunity, turned it into a $100 million opportunity by adding one form of leverage. Now let's say you create a software that runs all laundromats, independent of whether or not they're in your franchise system or not. And it works all throughout the planet. And all you do is take like 5 cents of gross sales on every dollar. Now who can you serve? Anyone on the planet? And you turned, because you added the highest form of leverage, you turned a $100 million opportunity, turned it into a $1 billion opportunity. Are you guys with me? Say yes. Yes. Okay. So what is the equivalent of doing laundry in real estate? Wait a minute. Did you notice the energy in the room? I know it's late. We've been here for a while, but did you notice the energy in the room? I was like, what's the equivalent? You all, I felt your brains go, yeah, fuck. It's doing deals. What's the equivalent of managing the laundromat? Nope. A team. Ooh. What's the equivalent of owning the laundromat? That's a brokerage firm. Limited geographically, you have labor, right? It's a limited opportunity geographically. What's the equivalent of franchising? Keller Williams, Century 21, like these franchise models, right? Because they take a 6% royalty fee. They can do it anywhere in the country. They have the leverage of labor and other people's money to build out offices. Make sense? What's the equivalent of software? Now, before you answer, okay, I'm not talking YLOPO. I'm not talking Follow Up Boss. I'm not talking software that we use. I'm talking, remember, brokerages are just platforms. They don't sell any real estate. So what is a platform for processing transactions? Software. EXP. It's just software that you can plug into for $150 and $85 a month to process your transactions. That is all it is. Let that sink in for a second. Stay with me. So this picture's of me looking quite fit. And what I've been doing over the last 19 months is running up the opportunity ladder. I have let go of everything. It's 2x. I let go of $850,000 in income like this because I realized it was the lowest form of leverage. I started to bang on media on a regular basis, and I'm being really aggressive with the software. And as I do that, my life is getting easier. As I'm doing that, I'm not missing out on opportunities to spend time with relationships. As I'm doing that, I'm able to have a bigger impact on more people. Why do I feel like the next 3 to 5 years is going to be the golden era of agent attraction? Couple things, okay? We have a lot of disruption happening in our industry, but this chart says it all. The company retained dollar to brokerage firms over the last 50 years has gone, meaning for every dollar that comes into the brokerage firm, they used to keep 50% of it, 50 cents. They are currently keeping between 10 and 11%. That is a massive compression of net. They only have 3 ways to deal with it. Raise fees, which they've been doing. What else? Volume. They got to do more ancillary services, or they have to get rid of staff and space. Do you know what EXP has done? Gotten rid of staff and space. This is called the facts. There's no way around this. You can give me all this other bullshit and all this other hype and stuff. Show me the money. In the short term, the stock market is a voting machine. I think. Do you know what it is in the long term? A fucking weighing machine. Who's making money? Right? This tells us that the majority of brokers are not making money. Now, this next stat is pretty wild. There's 120,000 brokers in the United States. 70% of them have less than 10 agents. What do we know about that broker? They are in production because they're not making no money otherwise. Volume went from 6 million to 3.9 million last year. So if you were that broker in production, not making any money off that, what would be the logical thing you would do? I'd want to go back into production full time. Or I would want to outsource the brokerage to something like a cloud-based brokerage firm who does all the paperwork and does all that stuff so you could just focus on attracting agents and doing deals. Is this making sense to you? Say yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then the last thing I believe, in my opinion, as to part of the reason why this is going to be the biggest opportunity of my lifetime and why I'm taking it so seriously, is this thing in game theory called a Schelling point. And what a Schelling point is if you have 2 competitors that can never speak to each other, with a high degree of probability, they are going to converge on the same thing with no communication. So in other words, let's say I'm selling widgets for $10 and Dan's selling widgets for $13. Do not be surprised in 3 to 5 years if we're both selling them for $12. We will converge on the same thing. Do you know what I see happening in the brokerage industry? We're all converging on the same thing, which is you have to get rid of staff and space. Nobody's talking to each other, but they're converging on the same thing, and they're converging on caps, and they're converging on equity and rev share. Does that make sense? Without actually speaking to each other. So people have a choice, because I know that there's other cloud-based brokerages out there. And what I tell them is like, look, you could either go with something's proven at scale and profitable, $120 million in the bank, debt-free, and their stock pays a dividend, or a startup that's unproven. 1 year ago, I had brought in 25 agents that had turned into 64, and I made $3,587 in revenue share. Now, how many doors would you have to own to get $3,500 a month in residual income at $500 a door? A bunch. That's a bunch of those down payments. So it's okay. It's not bad. Pays for housing, pays for perhaps some transportation. Here's where it is today, a year later. That number's actually a little light, but it's 233 agents, $14,800 last month. Guys, I need you guys to understand something. $14,800 a month in residual income is the equivalent of $2.6 million invested at 6%. How much of the 2.6 do you currently have? How much do you need? And how long would it take for you? And how many fucking houses that have cat farms? And how much time would you have to spend to get that? A lifetime? 20 years? 30 years? I did it in 19 months, and you could do the exact same thing. And this is my chart, okay? MJ has his chart. I promise you guys, my goal and objective is that my revenue share is going to dwarf the earnings that I made selling real estate over time, just like MJ did. Because I'm choosing a vehicle that compounds and is leveraged. And this is what's been happening. You could see up at the beginning, it started off in 2022 at $1,100. And in 2024, it's averaging between $15,000 to $16,000 a month. Now, this has allowed me, this vehicle, to no longer miss soccer games. It has allowed me to make investments in personal relationships. It has allowed me to start a Bible study because I have time for it. It's allowed me to take care of my health. I was skinny fat before, okay? Like out of shape because I was pouring all of my energy into selling real estate in high volume. It's allowed me to reclaim time. So I implore you, okay? If you are in this room and you're an elite builder, make a plan to attract one agent for the next 12 months. Find me in 5 years when this room has 2,000 people in it and thank me. Find somebody in the room that invited you. If you want to have a confidential conversation about it, we're more than happy to do so because we're going to thousands. Just like Drake says, we'll do it with you or we'll do it without you. Either one's fine. But I feel supremely confident. I know I speak for myself and the rest of the leadership team here, as you've seen, like selflessly flying from, out of the country, not being paid to do this, right? Flying all over the country to pour into you guys and add value. Like we're all here to do that. And what I'd like to do to, end our time together in this section is I'm going to end our meeting the same way I end all my meetings with 2 claps and a Ric Flair. So that requires everybody stand up. Come on, I want the energy. And I want the people upstairs to be like, what the fuck are they doing down there? Okay? So everybody get this? Say yes? Yes. Okay, good. Ooh, you feel the energy? I fucking love it, bro. I love it. You ready? Give me 2 claps and a Ric Flair. Listen, we appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for coming out. If you're a shitty marketer, you have to become a world-class salesperson. For 15 years of my career, because of the instruction I was getting, didn't pay attention to marketing at all, so I turned myself into the Michael Jordan of selling real estate. I could list 100 homes a year. I did that 10 years in a row. Did 200 deals a year twice because I didn't understand this. But if you understand this,